Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I am processing peaches, lots of peaches. We are in the midst of peach orchards all around us out here in the Midlands of South Carolina, and it is peach season. I'm able to pick up these half bushel boxes for $14. They are seconds, so there are some blemishes on some of them, but I certainly don't care because we eat them fresh and we like to preserve them in a multitude of ways. So I'm going to share some of those with you today. Most recipes are going to start with you peeling and pitting the peaches. The easiest way to do this is to put them in a pot of boiling water for only about 10 or 15 seconds, and then you can either put them in an ice water bath, or I just put them in cool water from the faucet. The skins pull right off. The peach is not too hot to handle because it was only in the hot water for a few seconds. And I just use my fingers and thumbs to split the peach open and pull the pit right out. And now your peaches are ready to be used. One of my favorite ways to preserve peaches, and by far the simplest, is just to slice them up and freeze them. I do this in quart bags, and I label the bag with the month and the year. Frozen fruit is so expensive, so we use this throughout the year to add to smoothies, pancakes, oatmeal, and other recipes. Everyone in my family is a huge fan of apple butter, but we've never tried peach butter. I filled 2 7-quart crock pots with sliced peaches, and I just let them go on low for about 8 hours, and then I used this immersion blender to blend it up nice and smooth like a puree. We all agreed that it pretty much tasted like peach baby food, so we added some lemon juice as well as some cinnamon and just a little bit of sugar. I think that was 1/4 cup, and I let it go on low for another 8 hours to reduce down. By the time it was finished, I also added about 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract and a little bit more cinnamon, and it tasted just right. It was so delicious. I look forward to putting this over biscuits or pancakes or waffles. It'll particularly be a great treat in the winter. We ladled these into pint jars. I wiped the rims clean, and we pressure canned this peach butter for 10 minutes at 5 pounds pressure in the pressure canner. You can also can this in a water bath canner, but sometimes with things like a dense product like peach butter, I didn't want to take any chances, and I went ahead and used the pressure canner. Now we have 9 pints of peach butter that are ready to go in the pantry. I made some peach preserves a few days ago and it did not set. I attempted to use the Sure Gel low to no sugar pectin and it did not set. When it was finished in the canner, it was still completely liquidy like a syrup. So I decided to put it back in the pot and try again. This may be my last year attempting to use pectin. I feel like I have pectin fails every year and it's so frustrating, especially when you spend so much time preserving food. So let's try it again. We'll see. If it doesn't set this time, I'm going to go ahead and can it again and just put it on the shelf, and we'll use it for really just like a syrup for pancakes or waffles. Next, I'm going to make peach salsa. In order to use tomatoes in recipes like this, you're going to want to remove the skins and as much of the gel and seeds inside as possible. There are multiple ways to do this. I would say the easiest way is what I am doing here. I cut the end off, I core it, and I squeeze out the gel and seeds as best as possible, and I put it skin side up on a baking sheet, and I roast these tomatoes at 450 degrees for about 20 minutes. I let them cool for 10 or 15 minutes as I chopped some other ingredients, and the skins come off so easily. You can see here, it does take 2 hands because some of them want to stick to the end of the tomato, but they come off nice and easy, and most of the liquid has evaporated. The only downside to this method is that it does cook your tomatoes down a good bit. It helps for a lot of the liquid to evaporate, but it also ends up a bit mushy. So while it would be delicious to have fresh tomatoes in this peach salsa, I do enjoy that roasted flavor. I probably should have started off by saying I don't typically follow recipes. My favorite thing to do is look up several different recipes for something that I'm wanting to make, peach salsa for example, and write down all of my favorite ideas and ingredients and quantities from all of the ones that I've looked at that had great reviews. So in this one I used lime, cilantro, jalapenos, garlic, onion, tomatoes, peaches, bell peppers from last year's garden. And as I begin to mix all of these ingredients together, I continually stir it and taste it and see what it's missing. Thankfully, for a recipe like salsa, you don't necessarily have to double or triple everything in order to bulk it up and have a lot to preserve. Now, if you're going to spend this much time chopping all of these ingredients, you want to make sure you've made it worth your while, that you're going to have a good bit to preserve. I'm adding a cup of vinegar and 2 tablespoons of sugar to the salsa. I'm going to stir it up really well and give it a taste test. All right, let's give it a try. I could not bear to let you hear me crunching and chewing my food, but let me tell you, I've never had peach salsa just with tortilla chips, and it's delicious. That is so good. All the different flavors, the depth of flavor, the freshness. I know it'll change a little bit as we can it, but I'm so excited to add this to the pantry. I pressure canned 5 quarts at 5 pounds pressure for 15 minutes. This is going on the shelf in the pantry, and it's going to be very painful to use these because they are so delicious, and it took so much time to chop and mix all of those veggies and fruit together. Next time, I will make at least twice this amount. By now, we are getting down to our last peaches out of that 1.5 bushels, and I had a friend in town that I was going to go have dinner with, so I was getting supper ready for my family and decided why not make a peach crisp for them to enjoy for dessert. I added a 1/4 cup of lemon juice along with a cup of sugar and 2 heaping tablespoons of cornstarch. I stirred all of this peach mixture together until it was well combined and then began working on the crisp topping. I combined a cup of brown sugar with a cup of all-purpose flour, 1/2 cup of rolled oats, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, and the recipe calls for nutmeg, but I apparently am out of nutmeg, so I used a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. Now I'm going to mix all of the dry ingredients together, and then I'm going to cube up some cold butter. I used about 1 1/4 sticks since I had increased this recipe a bit, and then cut it in with a pastry cutter. Now, I will tell you, I have a painfully cheap pastry cutter. It is like cutting butter in with a wire whisk. It's awful. I need to invest in a better one eventually. I use a knife or a fork to get the remaining butter off, and now we are going to pour this over our peaches. You're going to put it in the oven to bake at 350 degrees for about 45 minutes, and then you're going to let it sit at room temperature for 20 minutes before serving. It's delicious served warm with vanilla ice cream or homemade whipped cream. Let me know in the comments what your favorite fruits are to preserve during the summer, and do you grow them or do you just buy them locally? Thanks for watching.